Wrestling fans, specifically you guys who take the time to watch these videos, know that nostalgia is a powerful thing. We look back at the days gone and remember how much better things used to be, and it gives us almost a comforting and joyous feeling when we go back and relive the days of our youth. Someone else who knows the power of nostalgia is Vince McMahon, and he also knows, still to this very day, how to use this feeling to the benefit of his company. Heroes of wrestling's past are frequently brought back today for special episodes of Raw and Smackdown, and also at pay-per-views such as WrestleMania and the questionable Saudi shows. More recently, Vince McMahon recalling legends to appear on TV shows has been seen as an attempt to increase viewership due to the changing landscape in wrestling thanks to the introduction of All Elite Wrestling. This isn't the first time this has happened either though, as fans will recall Bret Hart returning to the WWE when TNA Impact went live on Monday nights. Back in 1996, WCW was gaining steam and putting pressure on the WWF. Vince was about to lose two big names in Kevin Nash and Scott Hall after already losing two of his biggest draws in history, Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan. Desperate times called for desperate measures, it seemed, and Vince McMahon would reach out to the Ultimate Warrior, a man who had left the WWF twice already under questionable circumstances, to try and sway the viewership in the WWF's favour. This video looks at the 1996 return of the Ultimate Warrior. Back in 1991, Ultimate Warrior threatened to no-show SummerSlam that year unless Vince McMahon paid him more money. In letters that have been obtained between Warrior and Vince McMahon, we can see that Warrior wasn't necessarily annoyed about his SummerSlam payoff, but he was more annoyed that Hulk Hogan was being paid more than he was on a consistent basis. Warrior demanded around $500,000 to appear at SummerSlam 91. Vince McMahon paid him, worried about the ramifications of an advertised top star not appearing at a huge pay-per-view, but after the show, Vince suspended the Ultimate Warrior. Warrior refused the suspension and decided to completely quit the company. He then formally sent a letter of resignation to the WWF in October of 91, but the WWF refused to accept the letter since Warrior was still under contract until September of 1992. With Hulk Hogan about to leave the WWF between mid-92 and early 93, McMahon contacted the Warrior to try and mend fences and get the guy to come back to work. Warrior made his comeback at WrestleMania 8 and began a feud with Papa Shango. Eventually, Warrior was put into the title picture and he got a shot at Randy Savage's WWF Championship at SummerSlam 92, but he won the match via countout. The initial plan was to give Warrior another run with the WWF Championship, however Vince McMahon and the WWF came under federal scrutiny regarding wellness allegations and juicing. We know the ball didn't start rolling on the trial until late 1993 into 1994, but even at this period of time, the company was still under pressure. It's disputed still to this day how and why Warrior got fired in 92. Vince McMahon himself claims it was due to Warrior experimenting with growth hormone, while other sources claim that it was due to Warrior refusing to take a test. Either way, at this period of time, there was no option but for Warrior to pack his bags and go home. Fast forward to 1996, with ratings failing and seemingly all his big stars leaving, Vince McMahon decided to do something no one thought he would ever do again. He called the Ultimate Warrior. Vince, knowing the baggage that came with the Ultimate Warrior, was willing to pay Jim Hellwig a substantial amount of money in hopes of injecting WWE audiences with nostalgia, hoping people would start talking about the return of the Ultimate Warrior and thus increase viewership numbers across pay-per-view and TV. Vignettes aired that explained how the Warrior had beaten Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan at back-to-back WrestleManias, getting those jabs in at any given opportunity. The Ultimate Warrior would return to the ring at WrestleMania 12 in a match against Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Upon arrival, Warrior already rubbed people the wrong way. Triple H, in the years that followed, said Warrior was the most unprofessional athlete he ever had to work with. Before their scheduled match, Triple H allegedly came to the Warrior with some ideas about how the match should go. Warrior took offence to the impromptu meeting, shooting down all ideas that Hunter presented to him and basically told him to get lost. The match went ahead, and as we all know, it was one of the biggest squash matches in WrestleMania history, if not the biggest. Triple H got hardly no offense in. Warrior no-sold the pedigree as Hunter was made to look like a total chump, and Warrior effectively looked like the all-destroying monster. Warrior got wind of Triple H calling him unprofessional, and he said this in reply. "I'm the most unprofessional person you've ever stepped into the ring with? Well, now, ain't that pretty? Because what I remember, Mr. Stephanie McMahon, is that you were only in the ring with me one time, and for less than 5 minutes. Well, it sure sounds like I taught you very well in the 5 minutes you had in the ring with me, because from what I hear, you are the biggest unprofessional asshole the business has ever seen. You are welcome." In the years that followed, specifically when Warrior was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, both men seem to have put their differences aside, with Triple H saying even though it was a squash match, it was still a good experience being in the ring with the Ultimate Warrior in his first ever WrestleMania. So the next week on Raw, Warrior was brought to the ring where he gave a usual Ultimate Warrior promo where you would need to take notes and do a little deciphering. Goldust interrupted him, and this set up a feud between the two for the Intercontinental title. Not enough has been said about the Goldust vs Ultimate Warrior match at In Your House Good Friends Better Enemies. This is a strange match, and honestly, I know it feels like I'm talking bad about Warrior here, but this was an incredible waste of pay-per-view time. And in saying that, also, a booker gave this the okay, so it's not entirely Warrior's fault. But go back and watch it for yourself. You'll be amazed at how this match plays out. To start things off, Goldust had kayfabe tweaked his knee when he was ambushed by a provoked Warrior in the free-for-all. So Goldust made his way to the ring with Marlena and a bodyguard wearing some knee support. Out comes the Ultimate Warrior to much fanfare as he proceeds to totally milk his entrance. What follows next is Goldust refusing to get into the ring, at one point making his way back up the entrance ramp with Marlena. Marlena drops her cigar, which prompts the Warrior to grab it, and he begins puffing away for all to see. Vince McMahon says on commentary, "As far as we know, the Ultimate Warrior does not smoke," trying to somehow cover up that one of his top babyfaces, who is supposed to be portrayed as a role model to all the little warriors around the world, is doing the dastardly evil activity of smoking cigars. Warrior grabs Marlena's chair and has a seat in the ring, still puffing away, while Goldust grabs the mic and threatens to kiss every fan in attendance if they don't shut up. Seriously. Warrior then baits Goldust into the ring to retrieve the chair, cigar, and his robe. We all understand building anticipation in wrestling, whether it's weeks before the match or the moments before the two superstars lock horns, but this was taking it to a whole other level. It went on and on and on. Nearly 10 minutes passed and the two hadn't even thrown a punch. When the match did get underway, Warrior quickly clotheslined Goldust back out onto the floor. Goldust decided to walk away, and this ended the match with a countout loss. There was always the possibility that Goldust was legitimately hurt here during this match, which would explain how the match, and I use the term match lightly, played out in this way. That being said, they still could have done another squash match like at WrestleMania 12, and an unadvertised match maybe could have followed. But anyway, this is how it went down. It was awful from start to end. It felt like a bait and switch. Warrior celebrated by wearing the bodyguard's hat along with Goldust's wig. The April 29th, 1996 episode of Monday Night Raw saw Ultimate Warrior work against Jerry Lawler's dentist, Isaac Yankem DDS, in another 2-minute squash match. After this match, Isaac Yankem would disappear from TV screens and return as the fake Diesel later in the year. Anyway, this match set up a feud between Jerry Lawler and the Ultimate Warrior. Goldust and Warrior had the chance to redeem themselves on the May 27th edition of Raw when the two squared off in a King of the Ring qualifying match. It ended in a double countout, but the two did have a 10 plus minute match. It wasn't a great match, there was plenty of stalling for sure, but this was the longest match the Ultimate Warrior had upon his return, so at least those who paid to see the Warrior got to see him in action for a longer period of time. So this brings us to the June 10th episode of Raw, the one with Warrior coming to the ring wearing a baseball cap. Jerry Lawler was in the ring being interviewed by Vince McMahon, and as a peace offering, Jerry offers Warrior a framed portrait. Warrior, in the ring, wearing a baseball cap, refused the gift. Lawler then proceeds to smash the framed picture over Warrior's head. So yeah, Warrior was prepared to look totally out of character and rather ridiculous in order to protect himself from a gimmicked picture frame. I know a baseball cap doesn't make people in general look ridiculous, but it was the Ultimate Warrior wearing a baseball cap. The two were booked into a match at King of the Ring, and the most entertaining part of that match was Jerry Lawler heckling fans during his entrance. Warrior won the match at just under 4 minutes with a clothesline and a shoulder tackle. He didn't even perform the big splash. Warrior was scheduled to team with Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson at In Your House International Incident in the 6-man tag main event, but all was not well with the relationship between Warrior and the WWF. On the July 8th episode of Monday Night Raw, we opened the show with an official announcement from WWF President Gorilla Monsoon. Gorilla said that due to no showing a series of WWF live events, the Warrior is being indefinitely suspended from the WWF until he is willing to make appearance bonds to ensure he will appear at WWF shows. This announcement was added to the show as Warrior did appear on this episode of Raw, however it was taped 2 weeks prior to Warrior no showing these events. The popular story for Warrior's lack of appearances was that he was mourning the death of his father, which was disputed on the Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior DVD due to an alleged lack of communication with his family. In the WWE's defense here, Warrior didn't contact anyone to ask for time off and didn't tell anyone he wouldn't be appearing at these shows that people had already paid for. If Warrior was indeed grieving over a family loss, why wasn't he honest and why didn't he tell the company? Anyway, on this July 8th episode of Raw, where Gorilla announced that Warrior was suspended but he was still on the show anyway due to the in-ring action being pre-taped, Ultimate Warrior faced Owen Hart. This Raw match goes to highlight how others at times were tasked with making the Warrior look better than what he was. Owen was a pro here, he worked with what he had but it still wasn't much. That being said, this was probably Warrior's best match during his 1996 return. The match ended with a DQ finish when Bulldog and Vader hit the ring to attack Warrior. Kind of fitting that the last match Warrior had here was him taking a beating from 3 other people. Psycho Sid ended up taking Warrior's place in the International Incident 6-man tag, and Warrior didn't appear on WWE TV again until his Hall of Fame induction in 2014. Warrior was on the receiving end of a burial when the WWE released the Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior DVD. While it is an entertaining watch and it did have some insight, it was simply made to bury the Ultimate Warrior and to make money. I'm not an Ultimate Warrior fan, but even I'll admit that there was some inconsistencies in this DVD and some of the stuff seemed fabricated. Look at this poster that was shown on the DVD for a live event that Warrior would have been potentially booked in. So can you see the problems here? Warrior is shown here as the champion in a title defense against Vader. We all know that there was no way Warrior was winning the title in the summer of 1996. We can also see here that Sid is advertised for the show, but Sid was specifically brought into the WWF to replace the Ultimate Warrior. So yeah, this attempt to bury the Warrior by the WWE was not very well researched. A Reddit user posted a picture of the same tour poster, but for a different date. You can see here that Shawn Michaels is advertised at this event as the WWF Champion, and the date here is June 15th, a week before King of the Ring 96, where Shawn defended the title against the Bulldog, and Warrior had his match with Jerry the King Lawler. The photoshopped poster by WWE shows the date as July 25th, 4 days after International Incident, where a WWF title match wasn't even booked, and initially Warrior was scheduled to team up with Shawn Michaels. So looking at the correct booking of that month, there wasn't even an opportunity for Warrior to win the WWF title. Poor job, WWE, poor job. Anyway, this ends our look at the Ultimate Warrior's return in 1996. It all seemed very lazy and went downhill right after his WrestleMania 12 entrance. Both the company and the Warrior are to blame here, as Warrior just appeared to phone it in, while Vince McMahon and the WWF were happy to try and profit from nostalgia. It didn't work. In all honesty, Vince should have known better, as the history between the WWF and the Ultimate Warrior was nothing but missed dates, suspensions, and firings.